With Kingfisher Airlines in deep financial trouble, the airline's boss, Vijay Mallya, has turned to the government for help and asked for concessions to rescue it. The Civil Aviation Minister today said he's discussed this with the Finance Minister and hopes that banks will help out. But Kingfisher is a private airline and the opposition wants to know why the government should step in at all.
Is Kingfisher the country's second largest private airline going the Air India way? For the third day in a row, flights, about 40 today, were cancelled across the country, and scores of unpaid pilots have called in sick. More flights may be hit after Delhi airport operators, GMR, asked the airline to pay upfront for using the airport. With passengers at the receiving end, the government today hinted that it could come to the rescue of the debt-ridden airline.
Actually, it's an Indian failure. I don't want closing it affect the Indian people. So I talked to Finance Minister. He is also aware of the fact. And none of us, as a government, I should say that we don't want airlines to be closed down. We want them to fly. So I hope the bank will come forward and discuss with them. The minimum facility they must extend, according to me.
But the Civil Aviation Minister made it clear, debt-ridden Kingfisher cannot expect the same treatment as Air India, which is getting nearly 2,000 crores from the government. Kingfisher's stocks crashed by 19% today to an all-time low. After a notice from the civil aviation regulator on cancelling flights without prior information, owner Vijay Mallya assured that the airline is working on a plan. But political parties, including the Congress, are wary of any plan that could involve a government bailout.
This is a very basic philosophical construct that whether government should be walking the extra mile to be bailing out private companies.
If Kingfisher Airlines is not in a position to run on a financially viable basis, then it should find its own way. But there is no case for a government bailout.
In the past, the Aviation Ministry has helped out private airlines by getting oil companies to give fuel on credit. But oil companies have now asked Kingfisher to pay cash every time it wants fuel. To make matters worse, taxes on aviation fuel in India are among the highest in the world, going as high as 25% in some states, making it expensive to operate an airline in India. Government sources say while a private airline cannot expect the same kind of bailout package like Air India, the Aviation Ministry can ease some of the troubles that Kingfisher is facing, like getting some credit facility for the oil that they buy for their planes, or getting some extension to pay their past dues to the Airports Authority of India. After all, it's not just a matter of a private airline, it's also a question of thousands of jobs and passenger inconvenience. But such a move has already generated a heated debate. Should the government come to the rescue of a private player? In New Delhi, Sandeep Phukan, NDTV.
And in a statement issued in the last few minutes, Kingfisher has said it's not made any bailout request to the government, but only asked banks to increase credit limits. It also says it's cancelling flights because of a predetermined strategy. Well, joining us on the program tonight, we have former Finance Minister and senior BJP leader, Mr. Yashwant Sinha, who's been very critical of any plans that the government has to try and help Kingfisher Airlines. Also joining us tonight, the former Executive Director of Air India, Mr. Jitendra Bhargav, and aviation expert Kapil Kaul. I'd like to come to Mr. Sinha first. Sir, many would say you're probably right when you ask why should the government be in the business of trying to help or bail out a private airline. Can you elaborate on your objections?
You know, it's not a question of objections. It's a question of policy. There could be a case, if at all, if an entire industry is in trouble, you know, for whatever reasons, some which may not be under our control. If an entire industry is in trouble, then government has to come out with policy measures to help the industry as a whole. The point which I'd like to make is that as far as individual entities are concerned, as far as individual companies are concerned, it is in the private sector, it is none of the business of government to go to their rescue. And surprising thing is that I find that there is a request to the Finance Minister to put pressure on the banks to bail out Kingfisher Airlines. Now, who is the Finance Minister and why should he put pressure on the banks? The banks are autonomous.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, that was my next question. You've been the finance minister yourself, Mr. Sinha. Is there any rule, any law that would allow the finance minister to actually get concessional loans for private players?
No, the finance minister, I don't think, has any jurisdiction to persuade the banks, pressurize the banks, cajole the banks into giving a bailout package to anyone. And it must be left to the commercial decision and judgment of individual banks. If individual banks think it is worthwhile, they can go and help the airline. But it can't be the responsibility of the finance minister or the finance ministry to put pressure on the banks to do it. So, you know, that course of action is completely, to my mind, out. It should not even be considered. And second point that I'm making is, if there is an industry problem, as I've said earlier, then the industry problem could be looked at, but not an individual entity's problem.
But do you also find it ironic that, you know, at one time the industry was asking for the aviation sector to be liberalized? That happened, so you had private carriers coming in, and now these same private carriers want the government to help them out and rescue them.
Absolutely. I mean, you can't be riding on two horses at the same time. That the private sector should say that we are autonomous and, you know, don't interfere in our working on the one hand. And second, whenever they get into a problem, they go to the government and say, give us this concession, that concession, etc. You know, they can't be traveling in both boats. And what is the modern practice? You know, earlier in the socialist era days, we were bailing out private sector industry, taking them over. We had the BIFR and other such measures for sick industries. Now all that is become a thing of the past. In a modern economy, you have mergers, you have acquisitions, you have companies failing, businesses failing, and that's a reality. So, you know, you don't have to come out and start bailing out everyone. I mean, why should the taxpayers' money be used to support an individual enterprise which came into this business with its eyes open? Why should it be the government's responsibility?
Mr. Sinha, thank you very much.
NDTV's cricket app, Android and iPhone, fastest scorecard, special analysis, and much more. Download free. ndtv.com/apps.